Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar is on price changes for 2020 from the U.S. Postal Service. This is our latest in our series of educational webinars from Anchor Software. My name is Cindy Prado. I'm a technical support specialist in the Anchor Software office in Texas. Shout out to Texas. I'll be moderating today's webinar for you, but our presenter today is Sammy, and please forgive me, I'm sure I'm going to butcher this, but Sammy Raymond
Yes.
from the U.S. Postal Service. Sammy, are you on the line?
Yes, ma'am, Cindy.
All right, all right. Well, Sammy, I'm going to go ahead and go on with the rest of my little spiel that I'm going to tell our customers that are our customers and the ones that are not, a little bit about Anchor. But before I begin, a few notes. If you're logged into the webinar, you're going to be placed in mute mode automatically. And what that simply does is it cuts down the background noise so that everybody can hear clearly and we don't hear a lot of shuffling or, computers going, because I know everybody's such hard workers. Questions that you have during the webinar will be addressed at the end of the webinar, so feel free to type them in the chat window during the presentation, and we'll have a question and answer session at the very end, at the conclusion of the webinar. One last note, this webinar is being recorded and it will be made available to you for viewing or reviewing on our website in the coming days. Before I go ahead and proceed to tell you and turn it over to Sammy, let me tell you a little bit about Anchor Software. So I hope everybody can see my screen well, and let me go ahead and begin. Anchor Software was founded in 1998. As most of you already know, and some of you that do not know, we have over 1,500 product installs and over 65 software products and more to come. We provide software solutions for data quality, postal compliance, mail processing, and document design. We're actively shaping our industry through the participation and leadership in MTech, ID Alliance, AMI, Postcom, and other numerous PCCs. And we have very good, great 24-hour technical support, 7 days a week, even on weekends. So now that I've told you about Anchor Software, let me go ahead and tell you about our presenter, Sammy. And I'm not going to say your name twice, Sammy, because I don't want to say it incorrectly. Sammy he works at the U.S. Post Office. He's acting manager of pricing. Sammy has over 16 years of experience with the post office and has been a manager of revenue and forecasting over the last 7 years. Sammy's been involved in several high-profile filings with the Postal Regulatory Commission, including the R 2005-1 Public Law, 108-18 Escrow case, and the Extended Rate case. The statutory review system of the regulating rates classes for market dominant products. Sammy has earned a master's degree in economics from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and he's a graduate of management and leadership program. Now that I've told you about Sammy, Sammy's going to tell us the exciting news about the postal rate increases. So Sammy, before I hand it over, will you tell us a little bit about what's on the plate for today?
Let me start. First of all, this is Sammy Rahman from the Postal Service. I thank you for joining me for this January 2020 price change overview. I'm going to go through both the market dominant and the competitive price changes. For the market dominant price changes, we have first class mail, USPS Marketing Mail, periodicals, packet service, extra services, and promotions. Uh, Most of the things that we look at in designing the prices are the volume trends, the changes in the mailer behavior, and feedback from the industry when we are actually designing the prices. We looked at where the best use of our limited cap authority is going to be. We have to look at the PRC requirements in terms of the worksheet discounts and pass-throughs. Um, we have to balance the needs of the business with the needs of the industry. Majority of the changes are closely aligned with the changes in the CPI. And just for those of you who may not be familiar with it, the CPI is the Consumer Price Index as inflation as measured by Consumer Price Index for the last year. And last year's inflation was 1.9%, meaning that none of the classes of mail by itself can, on the prices, can increase by 1.9% at most. There are a few small structural changes, but limited. And overall, how we grow and retain volume is one of the other objectives for the price change. That said, let's go and can you please turn the slide over, Cindy? Thank you. As I mentioned, the CPI last year was 1.9%, and essentially all of the prices for every single product that I described earlier, first class mail, marketing mail, periodic, etc., on the average cannot exceed by 1.9%. Can you turn over the slide, Cindy, please? Thank you. Now we're going to go into the first class mail. Overall price increase for first class mail is 1.9%. You'll notice that single piece letters and cards, there is no price change. Essentially, we are keeping the 5 cent increase from January 2019 at the same level. So there's no price increase in the stamp price or the meter price. Flats, we are increasing by 9.4%, and I'll discuss a little bit more. Pre-sorted letters and cards, 2%. And international outbound letter prices are going to go up by 4.6% on the average. Next slide, please. Here we are delving more into the first class mail single piece prices. As I said, there's no change in the first ounce stamp price. Additional ounce price also stays at 15 cents. However, the flat price increase for the additional ounce goes up by 33%. Meter price remains at the 1 ounce meter price stays the same, and obviously the additional letter price does not change. The single piece flat prices also remain constant, and so does the single piece cards. So the only change that you see here is the flat prices. And next slide, please. So what's going on with the flats? We have actually lowered the price of automation flats for the first ounce, but increased the flat prices for the additional ounces. So even though you are seeing some price increases here on the mixed automation flats, 4.4%, and 3 digits at 2.9, and actually a decline in the 5 digit, and that's all coming from the price increase of the additional ounce. It goes from 15 cents to 20 cents. And we had to do this in order to maintain the cost coverage for flats. The mixed automation letters price is going up 2.6%. The automation letters AADC is going up 1.7, and 5 digit automation is going to go up by 2.1%. So they are pretty much in line with the automation letters increasing slightly above inflation. That's the target. And the flat prices, as I mentioned, the previous slide was 9.4%, but most of it is just coming from the additional ounce price increase. Next slide, please. Now we move over to USPS Marketing Mail, which was called Standard Mail a couple of years ago. And here again, the overall price increase is 1.9%. Letters are increasing 2%, and everything else you will notice is increasing around 1% or slightly above that. The exceptions being flats and parcels. Now the PRC actually requested that we increase the parcel price by at least 2% above the average price increase for marketing mail and required us to increase the price of flats by 2% above the overall class average. And as you see, the class average is 1.9. That's why you see the flats increasing 3.9% and the parcels also increasing 3.9%. The rest of them are because the cap is limited to 1.9% and we cannot exceed the cap, hence you will see lower price increases for the rest of the products within marketing mail. Next slide, please, Sandy. All right, so now we move to the marketing mail a little more in detail, and these are the commercial origin prices. Letters, again, as you see, is increasing only 1.2%. Flats, you see a bigger increase, again, derived because of the requirements from the PRC. Carrier out sees a small increase as the saturation and high density letters. High density flats and saturation flats essentially are kept constant. There's no price increase at the origin level, at least. The EDDM retail, the price is increasing from almost 1.187, uh, 18.7 cents to 19.1 cents, which is a 2.14% price increase. If we can move over to the next slide. Okay. Now here we are talking about the nonprofit letters, and the nonprofit is essentially supposed to be discounted from the commercial prices. A thing to note is that not every cell is discounted the same. It's the overall average revenue of the nonprofit must be 60% of the commercial. So it's not necessarily that every single cell is going to be for the nonprofit 60% below the commercial prices. And again, you will see pretty much keeping in line with the commercial, the flats have also increased by 3.9% as mandated by the PRC. The rest of the price increases are almost negligible except for carrier out here. And the reason we are increasing carrier out less is because we're looking at, as explained earlier, at the value of the mail also. And carrier out has a lot of value because of catalogs and so on. So we're not increasing the prices as much. Next slide, please. Okay, and now we are moving to a little more detail level on the marketing mail letters itself. So on the commercial letters, um, there are certain discounts that have to be, or pass-throughs actually, that have to be met. And the PRC rule required us that any discount above 100% should be reduced by at least 10%. And that's what we have targeted here. And you will see we have lowered the pass through on the discount from 22 cents in the current between 5 digits and origin, 5 digit DNDC and the origin from 2.2 cents to 2 cents. And this essentially is trying to address the pass-through issues. You'll also notice that the price increases are a little bit higher, 2% here, 2% for 5 digit DNDC, and 5 digit DSCF is also higher. And the reason is that both of these mail streams are essentially where most of the marketing mail letters reside. And even small changes here does produce the required revenue for the postal service. Again, same issue with the DSCF, saturation DSCF. We haven't addressed the pass-through, and the price increase is a little bit closer to the average 1.82%. Again, all of this is pretty much driven by the dropship pass-through discounts, pass-through that we have to address as PRC requirements. Moving on to the next slide, please. There you are. Thank you very much. Here's the counterpart for exactly the same thing that we did for the commercial one. The nonprofit auto letters pretty much see the same sort of price increases, more so on the mixed origin, and again a little more on the DMDC and the DSCF 5 digit and saturation DSCF, pretty much mirroring what we did with the commercial. So again, the pass-through issues is being addressed here. Next slide, please. Now we move on to flats. As I mentioned earlier, you will notice a pretty big increase in the flats, the very first row, which is a 5 digit DSCF. These are the categories called flats in our reporting. and the PRC did request require us to increase the flats by 2% above the class average, and that's why you see the big price increase there. Uh, we have also tried to address the pure pallet issue, pass-throughs. The reason you do see a smaller increase in the saturation prices at the bottom of the table is because last year we did increase the DSCF prices for both high density and saturation quite significantly, which is around 8%. So this year we gave them almost nothing except for saturation DDU. And the reason for giving a little more to the saturation DDU is because the flats DDU compete with the letters DSCF saturation, and hence, since we have to increase the letters, we have to increase the saturation DDU to keep the two aligned. Another thing that I want to point out here is that we have changed the prices on the DAL. So the traditional DAL, the current price was 4 cents. The proposed price is 4.5 cents, half a cent increase. And the marketing DAL price is 4 cents, and that's going to increase to 5 cents proposed. All right, next slide, please. And now we go a little more into the actual prices themselves. And this is for an 8-ounce flat rate. And the reason that we just picked up 8 ounces is nothing other than to have a example, because these prices change by above 4 ounces. These price changes by an ounce, the pound rate and the piece rate. So these are the pound rated flats. And again, same story holds here. You can see the flats, the product flat, which is 5-digit DSCF, gets the highest price increase, again mandated by the PRC. The rest of the price increases, you can see, are following pretty much the overall price increase. The saturation DDU gets a little more, and the high density and saturation DSCF do not get any price increases. All right, with that, let's move to a different class of mail, which is periodicals. Again, overall, the price increase is 1.9%. Inside county is a small portion of the periodicals, and the price increase is 1.46 on that. The price increase on the outside county is a little more, 1.92, giving an average of 1.9. Most of the larger circulations that you see will have a price increase between 1% to 4%. The thing to note about the price increase here is that we have kept the pound price at the same level. So there's no change in the pound price, only the piece prices are increasing. On the average, the piece price is increasing by 1.8%. We have increased the bundle prices and sack prices. The bundle price increased on the average by 5.2%, and the sack price, that is container prices, are increasing by 12%. And the reason for doing that is to align our costs with the prices. So the cost avoidance is so we can capture most of the cost by increasing the sack prices more, which does cost the postal service a little more to handle. As an example, what will happen with Time and Sports Illustrated postage will increase by 1.5% and 1% respectively. The thick monthlies such as Better Homes and Gardens and Good Housekeeping will see price increases of about 1.2%. Um, Game Informer is a magazine for gamers that has a price increase of also very close to 1%. Local newspapers on the average will see a price increase about 3.2%, and the largest being 4.2%. So the lighter weight pieces will see a higher price increase, and also because of the non-machinable. Okay, that should cover periodicals. Moving next slide to package services. Again, overall price increase is 1.9%. You will notice that media mail does get higher price increase of almost 2%, and that is again to cover the cost because media mail and library mail are both underwater, and so we put a little more price on media mail and library mail to make sure the cost coverage gets improves a little bit. Flats overall price increase is slightly higher than the parcels. Flats have been more stable and are less sensitive to price changes, and hence they get a little more price increase than the parcels. Um, we have not decided yet if there'll be a transfer of parcels over to the competitive, and if and when it will happen, that's still up in the air. I don't have any more information on that as of this time. At least in this price change, of course, parcels are maintained under market dominance. All right, moving over to extra services. Next slide. Extra services overall will get a 1.9% price increase again. Um, Here there are a few uh, key changes. PO boxes will change a little bit higher, uh, and those boxes that have an 85% occupancy or higher will see the price increase. Most of them will not see a price increase. Certified mail will see a moderate price increase of 5 cents, which amounts to about 1.4%. Most of the changes to the popular extra services are because they add value to the mailers and recipients. Return within the return receipt products, electronic return receipt will see an increase more than the price of printed green card. Uh, Again, because there's value to the electronic receipts. We have, as I mentioned, we have reclassified some of the PO boxes within fee group. That pretty much covers extra services. Moving on, now we have promotions. Um, this year we have pretty much the same promotions as last year, except there's a slight change to the earned value promotion. The earned value promotion last year gave a 3-cent discount to the mailers, and now it was two-tiered, now it's three-tiered, and new entrants will get a 2-cent discount. The repeat mailers who meet at least 93% of their same period last year's volume will get a 2% discount. But the mailers who exceed their last year's volume, more than 100%, that is, they will get a 4-cent discount. So that's a major change in earned value. Most of the other promotions essentially are the same. Moving on, let's go on to competitive products. Competitive products, as I mentioned, are not capped by the price change for the inflation. We are pretty much free to charge the prices that the market will bear. Of course, we have to take into account all sorts of competition, not only from our own products, but also from outside the postal service. So overall, Friday mail sees a price increase of 4.1%. Retail will see a higher price increase than commercial, 4.9% for retail and 2.9% for commercial. These are excluding any NSAs. The NSAs prices are not involved here. These are just published prices. And as I mentioned again, we do look at the response of the price change to the volume changes, and we find that the retail does not respond as much as the commercials. Hence, you see a smaller price increase for commercial mail than retail mail for pretty much all classes shown here. Friday Mail Express, which is the old Express Mail. Sorry, can you go back, please? Sorry. Friday Mail Express has an increase of 3.5%. Packet services, first class packet services will also see an increase of slightly lower increase than Friday Mail of 2.6%. And we again, commercial is going to go more than the retail. The thing to note here that is we have kept the same realignment of the weight steps that was introduced last year in first class package services. There is going to be also a dim weighting in the retail ground as in other products. So the packages which are greater than 1.1 cubic foot but weigh less than 25 pounds will get a, not sure about the 25 pounds. There's a certain formula, I'm sorry, I have to look it up. But anyways, so those pieces that are too bulky and not have enough weight will be assigned a dim weighted pricing. All right, now we can move. The only thing that mentioned is the international outbound is going to go up 6.5% on the average. I can discuss a little bit more on the Friday mail, which is not on the slide, but at least I can kind of give you what's going on with the Friday mail. The flat rate boxes, there are three types of flat rate boxes: the small, medium, and the large. The most of these prices was increased by about 5%. The small one is increasing from $7.90 to $8.30. The Friday Mail medium flat rate is going to increase from 14.35 to 15.05, which is about 5%, and the large one is going to go from 19.95 to 21.10, which is a 5.8% price increase. Similar kind of price increases will also be seen in the flat rate envelopes. So they also range from 5.0% to 5.4%. Um, so those are a little bit more than the average for Friday Mail. All right. So now moving on to Parcel Select. Parcel Select consists of basically a heavyweight and a lightweight. The non lightweight is a heavyweight, which is divided into has prices for DDU, DSCF, and DNDC, which is a drop ship. Again, reminder: these are the published prices. They have got nothing to do with the NSA prices. Uh, So here we see parcels like increasing the not the lightweight with the heavyweight 2.5%. The DDU gets a little more price increase than the DSCF, and the DNDC gets the highest price increase of 2.8%. Parcels like ground, which is end to end, which is the heavyweight stuff, essentially non NSA, goes up 4%. The lightweight stuff, which is uh, all of the under 1 pound parcel, like most of its drop ship, goes up to 4.2%. The return service is also increasing about 4.9%, and as I did mention, there will be dim weighting on the retail ground. Um, Let me explain to you a couple of other services that are being offered with this thing. So there's going to be a premium data retention and retrieval service. That will It's a new offering that will allow a customer to request a postal service to retain scan data and signature data beyond the postal service's standard data retention period for up to 10 years. This service is available for parcel shippers via for Friday Mail Express, Friday Mail, First Class Package Services, Parcel Select, and Adult Signature Services. The starting price is $2.10. The Postal Service is also introducing a 20-cent per piece charge for packages paid through electronic verification system that are not manifested. So we have seen a lot of packages come in that are not manifested, and then eventually we find those packages, and then we have to charge the customer. So they're adding a 20-cent price increase for those, and which so there's going to be a threshold. After that threshold, if there is X number of pieces we find, then each one of these pieces is going to be charged 20 cents extra. Accurate electronic manifestation is important to both mailers and the postal service because it provides information data on the packages, including pricing elements that enable accurately timely payments of packages. The package assessed discharge will not be assessed an IMB compliance fee where applicable. Moving on to the next slide, which is pretty much so here we've already had the governor's vote on October 3rd. We filed on October 9th. The PRC was supposed to get 34 days, and the expected decision for both for the competitive was November 8th, and for market dominant was November 12th. Uh, the PRC, however, did return the first class mail prices, so obviously that November 12th date is not applicable anymore. However, the commission did not mention anything in their order about the first class mail price return. So we don't know exactly what's going on there. Why is the decision not on the competitive available right now? It looks like if things move along as we expect them to be, we should be able to meet the January 26th implementation date, but it's uh, still up in the air. Um, just because the PRC has not returned the decision on competitive, it doesn't mean that it's going to hold it for another X number of days. It might come in a few days, or it might be delayed. The Postal Service has no clue as to what the PRC's delay is, other than the first class mail price, uh, that they have requested that the Postal Service look at it again and adjust it. What's happened is that the first class mail has a component of inbound international mail. The inbound international mail rates are not determined by the Postal Service, they're determined by the UPU. And the Commission has requested that in the cap space calculation for first class mail, we use however much revenue we get from international mail. The issue is that the UPU has allowed the transfer of e-packets from market dominant to competitive sometimes in July. And so the Postal Service assumed that that would happen and hence use a little bit less revenue for the remaining year, for 6 months of the year, because those would transfer and hence would not be subject to the market dominant revenue in first class mail. The Commission has kind of rejected that notion and said that we need to take into account the full year. And so we did go to the governors and requested a change, a modification in the prices, which was approved yesterday. And now we are working towards filing another revised set of first class mail prices that take into account this e-package transfer that's going to happen later on in July. Okay, let's turn the page to one more, and that pretty much tells you where you can get additional information. The Postal Explorer, of course, has all kinds of information on different formats. Notice 1, 2, 3, Federal Register notices, and you'll have the domestic mail manual. Of course, the PRC website will have all our filings and all the rates in far more detail than I've gone through. With that, if there are any more questions, I'm willing to answer to the best of my knowledge.
Well, Sammy, thank you for a great presentation, and that was a lot of information. I know that a lot of you are interested in some of those rate increases that he talked about and over the different categories. Keep in mind that this webinar we will make available afterwards. The people that attended will get an email and with a link to the webinar so that you can go through it and glaze over the portions that were more important to you. But with that being said, there were some great questions that popped up during your webinar, and I'm going to ask the question that they were posing. If you will answer it for me, Sammy, I appreciate it. First is, well, you've done great so far. First is, are these the final prices? And I think you mentioned that, but can you go over that again?
Sure. So what happened is, as I said, we were expecting the PRC to come back on November the 12th, and say, okay, these are the prices that have met the criteria and satisfy all the requirements, and go ahead and do whatever you have to do to implement these. Unfortunately, the PRC said on the first class mail, the transfer of the e-packets are small packets which really are driven mostly from China. So they come from China and they cost very little. And actually, what happened is the president has requested that the Postal Service create their own rates and make sure that these packets are covering their costs. They're small packets and they're very cheap to come across the continents and be even underpriced than the domestic mail. So that's what happened. And so we requested the UPU, Universal Postal Union. They had a convention back in September, I believe, 24, 25, 26, to allow the Postal Service to declare their own rates for these e-packets. And so the UPU convention, not only the Postal Service, but other posts from other countries also, they agreed that yes, we can transfer them, but they will be transferred in July at much higher rates, higher than what they are now, The reason of the higher rates is, of course, because they were not covering their costs. So once that was done, we said, okay, for half the year, the e-packets will stay in the market dominant under first class mail. But after half of the year, they will transfer to competitive, and hence the amount of dollars that are used should not be applied to first class mail. In terms of in terms of the total. Okay, so the way the cap works is you have a total dollar amount, and you say, okay, this is my before dollar amount, and if I increase all the prices by 1.9%, this is the dollar amount that I should end up with. And the divisor of the two, the new dollar amount and the old dollar amount, should be 1.9% in terms of growth. So each one of these classes of products within the class of mail can have different dollar amounts associated with that. And e-format packets had about $50 million associated with that. The and the Postal Service said, because of the timing that will happen, that in half the year you will have the e-format in market dominance, so we will take $50 million out of the first class mail and use it against the cap. So now what the PRC decided is, no, you cannot do that. You have, because it's going to happen at a later date, you have to take all the $100 million out of first class mail and then compute the prices essentially. So a much larger chunk of the increase in the prices goes towards satisfying the inbound in e-packet. And hence we had to reduce some prices such that we would still maintain the overall price increase of 1.9%. And I think what we are going to do is we are going to file a new set of prices, if not today, maybe by tomorrow. I mean, if not tomorrow, maybe by day after tomorrow. And you will be able to get into the PRC website and pull up the new prices. I cannot disclose what we are filing right now because they're not being filed, but there is going to be some adjustment to the pre-sort letter price. And since they'll be filed tomorrow or day after, and you can certainly go in and to the PRC website and see. There's going to be a very small change in one cell, essentially, and that's going to, uh, we hope, adjust enough so that the PRC will be saying, yes, that now you're satisfying all the requirements and here are the new prices. Given that maybe what's happening is that the PRC is holding that, and that's the reason they're holding the decision on the others. But I'm not sure. I'm just speculating here. I've got no clue why the PRC did not issue their order on other classes of mail. They should have done it. They're all independent of each other, but PRC has its own rules, own set of rules, and they follow those. Unfortunately, I don't have any insight into why the competitive is being held back. Uh, the competitive is pretty simple case, I think, but maybe PRC has got other questions or concerns. I mean, there was only one CHIR, Chairman Information Request, for the competitive, so it should have been a smooth sailing there, but for some reason, it's also not being ordered yet on what they need to do with the prices on the competitive. I hope that explains it. It's a long-winded answer, but I hope that gets to the point.
Thank you for that. That was it was a long answer, but hopefully we got all that down. There's another person that had another great question.
Hmm.
And actually, I'm kind of interested in this one also. Why did the U.S. Postal Service change the first class stamp price? Seems to always be increasing.
Oh, well, okay. So if we don't change the prices at all, let's say, I mean, over 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, we don't change prices. Eventually, what's going to happen is obviously that product or sub-product or category, whatever you want to call it, is going to start losing money. So because the costs are going up, and if you don't increase the prices, obviously what will happen is that the cost will become higher than the prices, and then it will become an underwater product. So in 2019, it was the decision was made to increase the price of stamps by 5 cents. And there was a lot of reasoning behind that. One of the reasons was there was ease of use for the individual customers, um, multiples of 5 and so on. And I mean, there's justification of it. There's no rule in the PRC which says that all prices must increase in the same proportion. The rule basically clearly states that the first class, I mean, any product within a class of mail can increase by whatever, but should not exceed more than the class cap. Obviously, you cannot go in and change the prices of letters by, let's say, 200% and reduce the price of something else. That's unfair. So there's a fairness criteria also, and the question of burden, where the burden falls, and so on and so forth. So the Postal Service looked at all of these factors and then decided a 5-cent increase on a 50-cent price for a stamp is not putting any undue burden on the individual mailers. In fact, what happened is in before we announced the price change, obviously there was discussion on these price changes, and people had ample time, 2 to 3 months, and they purchased a lot and lot of forever stamps. So in effect, the 5% price increase was diluted completely, in in the sense that the Postal Service never got to see the 5-cent price increase because people bought these stamps, the forever stamps that you can use forever, at prices at 50 cents, and they're using when the price is at 55 cents. So there was the Postal Service did not feel that, and the Postal Service knew that would happen, and that's why we made it available. The stamp was available, unlimited quantities. Whoever wanted to buy as many, they could buy as many, and hence the Postal Service did not feel compelled that this would be an undue burden on individual customers. 5 cents, if a customer sends even 10 letters in a month, it's you know it doesn't amount to anything compared to the budget that the individual customer has. It's a very, very tiny amount of the budget. So there's no undue stress on a individual customer. And because of these changes, I mean, the 5 cents at that time was a 10% price increase. So the Postal Service did not change the price of stamp this year and kept it at the same price at 55 cents, and also kept the meter price at 50 cents. So the gap between the meter and the stamp price stayed constant. Uh, the PRC wrote a 70-page, um, I guess, explanation of why they supported the 5-cent price increase for last year. So I think the Postal Service has all justification of increasing the price of 5 cents last year, and we did not change the price of stamp this year because we realized that a 10% price increase was large, and we're not going to increase the stamp price 10% every year. That would be uh, that would put undue burden on people. So that's why the stamp price was not changed this year.
Well, thank you for that. And I guess I lost that on those forever stamps. I should have jumped up on that and gotten silly just like everybody else. Well, thank you for all. That seems to be the last of the questions. I want to thank everybody, and especially Sammy, for giving such a great presentation today on the postal rate increase and so much helpful information. If you have any questions, you're welcome to visit our website at www.anchorcomputersoftware.com, or you can simply send an inquiry into our support email at support@anchorcomputersoftware.com. Thank you, everybody. And again, this will be made available to everybody who attended, and you'll be sent a link. Have a great day, and thank you so much, Sammy.
You're welcome, and sorry, I apologize for the technical difficulties you were having
No
initially.
worries. We took care of it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you.